Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He's a Christian and Elim Bible College Vice President, Professor, an author, CEO, elected official, and of course, husband and dad, none other than Mr. Richard Brains.
Hey Daniel, thanks for having me on.
Welcome, Mr. Richard, on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Yeah, that was a pretty good introduction, but thank you for that. Yeah, I wear quite a few hats. Some of those I don't wear anymore, but currently I am the Assistant Vice President for Mission Advancement and Recruitment at Elim Bible College. That's a Christian college in New York, near Rochester, New York. If your listeners are interested, it's Elim, E-L-I-M, elim.edu. And I spend my time promoting the school and talking to people like you, talking to high school students. And I'm also one of the teachers at Elim. I teach a variety of theology, Christian theology classes, history of Christianity, and beginning in a couple of weeks, I'll be teaching New Testament Greek. So it's a very interesting position I'm in. So thank you for having me on.
Welcome, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Richard. And today, let's talk about why students and parents should choose a Christian college over state school and trends. So tell us, why beyond faith? Integration is central. What is the most compelling secular arguments for a Christian college education that would resonate with a career-focused student or a pragmatic parent?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So it's important to remember that Christian college or Christian school is central to the American experience, and most people don't realize that. But many of our Ivy League schools started as a place where ministers are trained. Yale, Harvard, Princeton; those are all schools that were started with the mission, the first mission, to train young men and women, men mainly, in the 18th century, 17th, 18th century, for ministry. But the current state of education that we're in now, and when we talk about Christian schools, obviously we're talking about accredited schools that have regional and or national accreditation. So if you're a parent or a student thinking about going to college, some of the things you want to look for, obviously, is you want to look for accreditation, and most of your regional Christian schools are accredited. But the divide between what Americans want for their children and what students want, by the way, from the school that they attend for their education, there's a huge disconnect between what they want and what many of the state schools are offering. And I'll give you just a few examples of that. Prior to President Trump's injunction that at least in NCAA athletics, that schools had to end their policy of allowing biological males in women's spaces, restrooms, locker rooms, in sports. So before President Trump issued that injunction, 95% of all public colleges and universities, and even you can include vocational schools in that list, had a policy where they allowed biological males into women's spaces. Now, whether you agree with that or not is really not the point. The point is 95% of state schools allow that. But what we know from recent polling, even as recent as May of 2025, that the vast majority of both parents and students across both political ideologies, or Republican and Democrat, are opposed to biological males being in women's spaces. So that's just one issue that we see in Christian colleges, and we're talking about Protestant evangelical schools, Catholic schools. Certainly, the school that I'm affiliated with, Elim Bible College. We take a traditional view that there is a difference between the biological sexes. Men are men and women are women. And so what we've discovered is that is a position that Americans are still firmly entrenched in, regardless of what you hear on the news, or regardless of what you're made to believe through maybe some of the people in media that have the bullhorn. And it's even, it gets even, a little bit more complicated than that. We know that about a third of high school students, when they are looking at colleges, a third of all students, when they are accepted to a school, so we're talking about schools that these students are accepted to from high school going into college, a third of those students will reject colleges based on their political ideology, meaning that this school is solidly preaching a specific political ideology. So what we're finding is that parents and students both are tired of it. They're tired of their kids being indoctrinated. They're tired of colleges and schools focusing on seemingly everything except education. So what we offer in Christian schools is we offer education. We offer liberal arts education. Your students that come to Elim Bible College, they're going to take English and math, and they're going to take literature, and they're going to learn the classics, and they're going to do all those things, whether they're majoring in business, or whether they're majoring in theology, or even if they're participating in one of our vocational certificate programs, like our construction certificate. They're going to take these traditional classes. But the big difference is that when students graduate from Elim Bible College or from similar Christian schools, here are some of the statistics that separate students who go to a Christian school versus students maybe that don't. So number one, students that attend a Christian school, a Christian college or university, have a higher graduation rate, significantly higher. It's in some places it's 89% versus 53% in some places. The average is about a 15-point difference, depending on the region, depending on the state, the school, who you're measuring. But across the United States, we see that if students attend a Christian college or university, they are more likely to graduate from college rather than drop out. The other thing that we know from polling graduates and current students is that while 66% of students who attend a state or a secular college or university report that they're having a meaningful experience at the school. In other words, they're growing in a way that's outside of the classroom, if you want to count that as their spiritual growth or their moral or ethical growth. About 66% of students that go to a non-Christian school report a positive growth in that direction, versus almost 85% of students that attend a Christian school report that environment at that school has a very positive impact on their social and moral and psychological, spiritual well-being. If you even want to talk about college loans, most students still have to take out loans to go to a 4-year college or university. The loan default rate is lower among students who graduate from Christian schools than from public schools. It's actually 5.9% default rate for students who graduate from a Christian school versus almost 8% in a public school. And last, and this is obviously I've hogged the microphone here, Daniel. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Is that when you look at job placement rates, 98% of students who graduate from a a Christian college university are employed or in graduate school. So 98% have successfully moved to the next step of either employment or graduate school, versus about 79% among secular or state schools. So really the case that we make at Elim Bible College is that if you're a student or if you're a parent, in addition to the education that your student's going to receive, in addition to the great experience that the student's going to have with making those lasting friendships and being part of that 82% that report this really positive state of well-being, what we're going to do at Elim Bible College and other Christian schools, what we're going to do is we're going to help your student really discover and really deepen that relationship with God, learning the Bible, learning Christian literature, and really becoming a well-rounded citizen, a well-rounded and a well-educated person versus someone that's just been indoctrinated with political ideology.
Mr. Richard, how does the whole person development model at the Christian college create a tangible advantage in preparing students for life and career compared to more specialized focus of a large state school?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that's part of some of those statistics that I gave you. So it just depends on what you're looking for. So if, like, I have 5 children, and they vary in ages from 19 years old to in their mid 20s, and some have gone to college, some have not. But the one thing that we did not want for our children is we did not want our children to go away to a school only to get indoctrinated with a political ideology. We wanted our kids to go and learn their trade or learn their craft or whatever it is they're going to learn. We wanted them to be well-rounded and well-educated. I just finished saying to you that over 95% of all secular schools, this is state schools, non-Christian schools, hold to an ideology that the vast majority of Americans are solidly against. And we already know that over a third of students are just outright rejecting schools because of this. And so the advantage that you have, the advantage that the students will have, if you're a high school student and you're thinking about college, the advantage that a Christian college like Elim Bible College will give your students is that we're going to educate your student so that they're prepared for life and for their job. That's the purpose. Versus going to a school who sees it as their primary purpose to indoctrinate them to a leftist ideology. And so, unfortunately, we've reached a place in higher education in the United States where there are educators in the classroom that are more concerned with the political ideology indoctrination than they are with teaching the classics or teaching math or just teaching the things that create educated individuals. And so I think that the proof is in the product that we are creating at Christian schools, which is well-rounded, productive citizens that report a very high rate of employment after graduation because they've been effectively trained and they've been effectively educated. And I hope that makes sense.
Makes sense, Mr. Richard. We often hire sticker price. What is the rule, the true ROI of a Christian college education that is not captured just the first job salary?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I don't really have any statistics. I can tell you that and really the only thing I can speak to is the college where where I work. and our costs are probably 2/3 less than some of your um, state schools or secular schools. So I know for us, we make it very affordable. We have low overhead. Our college has been around for 100 years, so we don't have some of the overhead that other colleges do. So I don't know that I'm prepared to answer that because I don't have the statistics. But I think that you can look at a couple of the statistics that I gave you, which is a higher job placement rate and a lower educational loan default rate among those students that graduate from a Christian college. So while that's probably not a slam dunk case for good or positive ROI, I do think that it's certainly a metric that 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 speaks to the positive aspects of attending a Christian college.
How do Christian colleges create environment that is both safe for exploring faith and rigorously challenging their students' worldview, avoiding the echo chamber critic?
Yeah, you're asking some really good questions, Daniel. Thank you for preparing for the interview so well. I really appreciate that. So here's part of it, right? Our students at Elim Bible College, and I'm a product of Christian schools as well. I went to a Christian college, a Christian university in Tennessee. I did my graduate work at a Christian school in Virginia, so I'm very familiar with Christian schools. And so what you find at a Christian school, even if it's a denominational school that teaches one specific sort of doctrinal position, what you find is that Christian schools, by virtue of their nature as Christian, they invite questions, they invite dialogue, and they invite dissenting opinions within the context of discussions, whether it's in one of their, Bible classes, or whether it's in their general psychology class, or even in their biology class, right? So Christian colleges have this, certainly at Elim, we have it, this culture, really, where you have this expectation that there's going to be this certain level of tension between these students that come from all these different backgrounds, and they've got all these questions. So you've got some tension, but that's what learning is, and that's what Christian colleges do such a good job at, is taking that tension and creating these students who learn how to have meaningful dialogue and how to think critically. Versus in many of your public schools and many of your state schools and non-Christian schools, what you find is that if you have an opinion that is different from the majority opinion or the leftist opinion, then you're ostracized or you're minimized or you're forced to leave. And we see it all over the place. We just saw this with Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk, obviously he was on the right in the political spectrum, but Charlie Kirk had one goal. His goal was to visit college campuses and get people to talk about things they disagree with. That's it. That's all he wanted to do. He just wanted people to talk. And you can scour the internet. You can scour YouTube or Instagram or Twitter, and you can find thousands of videos of Charlie Kirk respectfully engaging people that disagreed with him and that held different positions. And a young man who was indoctrinated into radical ideology killed Charlie Kirk because of what he believed. And that young man was a product of this angry, vile approach to public discourse that says, if you disagree with me, you're evil and you need to be killed. That is not something that you find on the average Christian college campus. Now, Daniel, there may be some small Christian school out there that's just filled with vile racists and bigots and Nazis or whatever you want to say. But generally speaking, colleges that find their home as evangelicals or Pentecostals or charismatics, or even a lot of your denominational schools. You find the opposite on campus and in the classroom. You find places where students can discover what they believe through discourse and dialogue with professors that see it as their job to help guide these discussions. Look, I grade papers all the time that make conclusions. In fact, I just graded a paper from a student that I disagreed with the student's conclusions. I don't think he made the right conclusions, but he substantiated his argument really well, and he showed that he could think through the issue in a way that was reasonable, and he appealed to sources that are respected sources in this area where he had to write the paper. Now, I disagreed with his conclusions. I gave him an A on the paper because what he showed me that he could think through the issue. Now, I would challenge any student at one of these large liberal institutions to tell me that they can write a paper that challenges the position of their professor and still get an A. And it's almost unheard of.
Addressing modern trends and perceptions in an era where many young people are demonstrating or deconstructing their faith, how does Christian college environment actually provide a more robust foundation for these questioning than navigating it alone at a secular university?
So the difference, Daniel, is the secular university wants you to deconstruct your faith because they see Christianity as the enemy to the godless society that they want to create. So they want you to deconstruct your faith. So really, there's no such thing as deconstructing your faith in terms of having a deconstructed faith. You either have faith in terms of believing in Christianity or you don't, right? And so the difference would be at a secular university, the goal is for you to deconstruct your faith. But at schools like where I teach and work at Elim Bible College, our goal is to help you discover and deepen what you believe. Now, we believe that the 66 books of the Bible are the Word of God. We believe that Jesus is a historical figure that lived a perfect life. He was God incarnate. He did for us what we cannot do for ourselves, and he died on the cross for us, and he rose again, and he was God in the flesh. Like, we believe all of that, but what we don't do is force our students to believe what we believe. We want to produce an environment for them where they can work out those things that are so central to being that age, which is when you're trying to work out what you believe. And so the difference really is that at a Christian school, you're going to have the opportunity to think through those things and to talk through those things with professors that care about you and that care about your well-being versus professors that are just trying to turn you into another leftist robot that doesn't think, that just parrots whatever the leftist ideology is. And I think that's the biggest difference. Now, obviously, Daniel, I'm biased here, but I'm not biased because I live in a vacuum. I'm biased because this is the world I live in, because I've taught in a state school as well. So it's not just a Christian environment where I've taught in a state school as well. And I've seen the differences. And besides the religious difference, besides this obvious difference that if you come to Elim Bible College or Lee University or Southeastern University or Liberty University or Regent University or Colorado Christian or any of these fantastic Christian colleges, if you come to any of these schools, you're going to take courses in theology and the Bible. These are Christian schools. We're going to teach Christian stuff. But the difference between us and the difference between a secular school is we just lay it out there. This is what we believe. And whether you believe it or not, we want you to learn it. Because Western society is based on these things. Western society is based on Christian ethics and morals. And Western society is built on the 613 laws that God gave to Moses on Mount Sinai. Like, that's part of who we are in the West. And so we want you to learn that. We want you to learn what that is and what that's about. You can reject it if you want, but we want you to learn it. Versus a school that says all of that's horrible. All of the great things about Western society that built this infrastructure of free speech that these leftist ideologists are taking to try to shut down speech. And it's something that we see. And I've finally reached a point, Daniel, where, with very few exceptions, if you're a parent that cares about what kind of adult your son or daughter is going to be after college, if you really care, or if you're a 17-year-old, 18-year-old, and you're a high school senior and you're really thinking about college and you don't know what to do, you're looking at these majors and you're looking at all these schools, if you want to be a well-rounded adult that thinks for yourself and that understands who we are as a society, both the good and the bad, and you want to be the kind of adult that knows how to critically think for yourself, then you should choose a Christian college.
Mr. Richard, as a professor, author, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
Yeah, that's a good question. And you know what's funny about that question is the president of our college, Dr. Fred Antonelli, who's one of the greatest leaders I've ever really been under. Dr. Antonelli's done a great job at Elim Bible College. But he asked me the same question the other day. He said, "Richard, what are your aspirations?" And really, Daniel, my chief aspiration is that I would continue to be the kind of teacher that God wants me to be, and that I would continue to be the kind of teacher who is more concerned about my students' ability to learn than me trying to impress on them my beliefs. Right? I just want to be the best teacher that I can be, and beyond that, I want to be the best assistant vice president that I can be under Dr. Antonelli's leadership, and just do whatever he wants me to do for Elim Bible College. I want to put as many young people on Elim Bible's campus as I can, but at the same time, I want to put as many students in the seats of these Christian colleges as I can, because I think that's the best thing for young people today.
Well, good luck to your goals, Mr. Richard, and looking forward for more success. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
So I'm so sorry, I missed the last part of that question. That want to be like me? Was that the question?
Yes. Want to be like you, Mr. Richard.
Yeah, I would say pick someone else. No, look, I tell you, I've never been asked that question before, but here's what I would say. Everything that I am, I owe to the grace of Jesus Christ and to the love of my wife. And I would say that if you are a young man and you think that I'm someone that you can aspire to be like, I would say that you need to pursue Jesus above everything and find a wife that will love you but will love God more, and then build a family with her. If you're a young woman, same advice, little different priority would be to pursue Jesus with everything that you have. Find a husband and love him more than you love yourself, but love God more. And I think that should get you where you want to go in life.
Well, thank you for that advice, Mr. Richard. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Absolutely. When I was 18 or 19, I think I was 19, someone in my church gave me a book, and I recently gave it away to my oldest daughter. I say recently, I think I gave it to her for Christmas. It's the same book. it was published in 1896 by Charles Sheldon. So Charles Sheldon was a congregational minister in Vermont and in Kansas. And he wrote a small book in, I think it was 1896, called In His Steps. It is my favorite book. And In His Steps is about a fictional town with a fictional pastor that is just going through the motions. And he's reading the Bible one day, and it dawns on him that what if he asked the question, what would Jesus do in every situation? How would it change his life? How would it change his family's life? And so he says that to his congregation from the pulpit, from the one Sunday morning. He says, what we want to do is we want to start asking the question, what would Jesus do in every situation? And so the rest of the book is about how individual Christians asking that question and then wrestling with the leading of the Spirit changes this little town. It changes the church. It changes what the person that publishes a newspaper writes about. It changes how the banker does business. It's just so In His Steps by Charles Sheldon, one of the most influential books in my life, and very short. If you even got an average ability to read, you can probably sit down and read In His Steps in one day. But a great book. I'd recommend everyone.
Thank you for that recommended book, Mr. Richard. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in 5th season, abstract poetry in 2nd season, and my book 101 review in 5th season too. Comedy 101 in 2nd season, and my food 101 in 5th season as well. Geography 101 in 4th season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101, Love Letters in 3rd season, and Movie 101 review, Music 101 in 4th season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its 1st season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Richard, tell us, if a family could only ask one question to determine if a Christian college is the right fit, what should that question be?
That's a good question. So I think there are a lot of questions to ask, but I think the most essential question that a student can ask is, what is the purpose of a college education? Is it to train you to just do a job? Is it to indoctrinate you into some ideology that maybe you don't hold? But I think the question that you should ask is, what does God want from me as an adult after college? What is God's purpose for my life? And when you get the answer to that question, which type of college is better suited to support what God's will for my life is? And in almost every situation, not every situation, but in almost every situation, I think that Christian college is going to be able to do that for you. Certainly at Elim Bible College, that's what we want to do. We want to help students discover who they are in God and help them fulfill their call and to become the men and women that God wants them to be. And so if you're a parent listening to this, or if you're a student, elim.edu, elim.edu, go to the website, come and visit the school. Let us take you around and take you to the cafeteria, maybe watch a volleyball game or something, and let us help you make that decision.
Mr. Richard Rains, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, and hoping for more and more empowering advocacy to come. So can you please invite our listeners to support once more your business itself?
Yep. Elim Bible College, ELIM, in Lima, New York, like lima bean. So elim.edu. So visit that website and come visit the campus.
Yes, people, support Mr. Richard Rains, and for sure more and more empowering students will rise. So, Mr. Richard, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Daniel.
Motica people, see you soon.